He began his career as the fashion designer behind the outfits worn by English supergroup Spandau Ballet, one of the most celebrated music industry executives in the Caribbean. I'm Penny Lane, and In the Driver's Seat starts now. Amy Winehouse, Rihanna, the Rolling Stones, Coldplay, famous artists who decided to record their music here. Geejam Studios in Jamaica's Port Antonio, the brainchild of our guest today. Jon Baker, welcome to In the Driver's Seat. Now, you're a long way from London. Why Jamaica?
I'm not really into the UK culture, and I'm not really into the whole... I left the UK to move to New York in the late teens, and I came back to start a hip-hop label in the mid-80s, but I wasn't there for long, so I was always looking for foreign places, but Jamaica was somewhere that was... it kept crossing my path.
How big an influence was your parents on your future career?
Super influential. Only child, grew up in northwest London, went to boarding school, but both parents worked at 8, 9 at night. My dad was a car dealer. My mum was quite a well-known British fashion designer. So I had the yin and the yang, and I think that stayed with me most of my life. So I've managed to be able to entrepreneurial as well as keep the creative in there.
How did blues come about?
That's really funny. You found blues. That's really funny. Okay, so I used to hang out in Seditionaries, which was Vivienne Westwood's store. So on Saturdays, I'd be just hanging out there, and I got very, I was a kid at the time, and she inspired me. I started out in fashion, so I started printing. My first business was printing T-shirts, and we opened a small stall in Kensington Market, and we called it Blues, which was kind of irrelevant because that was the chosen form of speed at the time that kids used to take, which weren't illegal apparently then. But so we did things that were kind of, I think I've always done things that are against the grain. So from there I moved into punk. Really lasted a year, 18 months, and then I became sort of one of the key sort of proponents of the sort of Blitzkid movement. So the dandyism and the new romanticism came into London pop culture. So I'd say at the end of the day, even at my ripe older age of nearly 65, I still bump into pop culture the whole time, and youth culture. That's what's kept me sort of driven for my career.
Why the affinity with the punk movement?
Being a devout champagne socialist now, back then I was more of an activist, and I was more... I think the situation worldwide is worse now with the governments and with the corporations taking over, and I think the youth of the world now has a much tougher time than I had, even though that was it. And I just decided that that was a good platform that spoke out, and it's kind of the attitude has stayed with me from then to now.
Did you like the new romantic movement for music or fashion?
No, it was everything. The new romantic movement was probably the most important young, late teenager, early 20s movement of entrepreneurs that I can think of has ever existed. So Axiom was me morphing out of sort of the punk movement and learning what I learned in that as a fan, and applying it more to entrepreneurism and another movement. And it was about escapism at the time. You had Thatcher. You had all these awful situations going on, and it was the birth of everything, unraveling like it has now. And so this was escapism as much as, we had music managers. Sade used to make clothes for my store. She was just putting a band together at the time called Pride, which I was working with. I was making clothes heavily at that time. And likewise, Spandau and a lot of great bands were coming out of that. So it was a whole package.
G Street Records, then hip-hop. Why did hip-hop become your thing?
Well, there's obviously the connection with punk by these were kids, cutting up to... In punk, people, if you didn't play a bass guitar, it didn't mean you couldn't be a bass player in a band, If you wanted to learn drums, you did it. You didn't have to go to music school. You didn't have to go through the traditional silos of getting things done. Like, you know, I mean, later on in our lives, we see how you can't even get a job interview without a worthless degree, which is, you know, people are beginning to realize now with AI that degrees are pretty worthless and people need to get down to it. But swinging back to that, yeah, it was the similarity. This was, from a creative standpoint, it was the sampling and the way they put music together was amazing. And that's how I learned a lot more about black music, going back to culturally what I didn't listen to when I was younger. I was more David Bowie, T-Rex, Brian Ferry. You know, these were these Roxy Music. These were the bands I grew up with. So basically, yeah, it was just the energy, the potential, and the difference there was because I by then had become more entrepreneur, and so I saw it from. And then when Malcolm McLaren and Vivian showed up at the door of the Roxy Club, I knew we were onto something because they did the whole Buffalo Rock, and I helped research that for Malcolm, and so that's a long relationship I had with both of them.
You moved to Jamaica in 2002. What did you want to create here?
Well, the property that you're sitting on at the moment, I actually bought. I put a lot. You know, I'm quite. I think things happen for a reason, and I'd come to Port Antonio in '86 as a step up from a backpacker. And when I came to Port Antonio, I came to Jamaica. I discovered Port Antonio. It's very different to the rest of Jamaica. And they say, be careful what you wish for. So I said, oh, one day, hopefully I can afford a holiday home here. That was in '86. So in '90, I made the deal with Chris. We did a joint venture with the label. I got a chunk of change. So I said, fuck it. I better buy a place in Port Antonio. So that's what I did. All this. Are you staying in Sandwood, the 3-bedroom?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that was the first house here, and it didn't have a roof. It was just all raw land here. Nothing else was here. Not the houses outside the gate, nothing. It was just that. I actually bought it unseen. It was only because there was a local guy who, Bentley, which I named a restaurant after, on our beach, who was a local fixer. We call him the mayor of Drapers. He would find land, and he rung me. He was actually managed the guest house we used to stay at. So things all clicked together. So I bought a place here. Little did I know it was going to be my own personal money pit for the rest of my life. But here it is.
Tell us about these incredible studios, Geejam.
Well, I think when I was with Island Records, and it was just a villa, and then I put a few cabins here after we renovated it, there was a guest cottage next door, which is now our offices, that I brought the studio I flight cased the studio from England and brought it over here for G Street. This was in early, because that was still going. And that was good. And then when Chris Blackwell left Island Records in '96, he gave me the option to buy G Street back, which I did. And then I fortuitously bumped into Branson at a bar in London, I think it was, and some of his people. And they said, oh, we're starting a new label, V2, come on board. So I sold them G Street back, or it's a percentage of it. And I took the position of co-president of V2 Records in America from '96 to 2000. And I realized I didn't have the flexibility to come to Jamaica every month like I used to. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to build a studio here.
What music do you prefer to listen to when you're by yourself?
Jazz, because I'm in my 60s.
I love jazz too.
Yeah, I mean, I go deep into that. I mean, I still listen to a lot of hip hop. I'm actually getting much more involved in music again through some opportunities that I've been developing. So I'm looking forward to having another foray in that area.
The incredible life and times of Jon Baker. Thank you for joining us in the driver's seat.
No problem. Good to meet you.
In the driver's seat is proudly brought to you by the Perfect Cosmetics Company. This is Tika, and we'll be right back.